Eric, thanks so much for being here.
Happy to be here, Dan.
So you measure politicians based on how likely they are to work across the aisle. That's how you measure federal lawmakers and state lawmakers here in New York. But I feel like we're at a point in this country where people are more divided than ever. And I think you see that in the recent elections and certainly the campaigns leading up to it. Based on what we know now from the election results, do you think that voters have an appetite for selecting candidates that are willing to work across the aisle?
Absolutely. And I think it's evident in the results of the election. The fact that Donald Trump lost the election, or certainly appears to have lost the election, and yet the Republican Party as a whole did as well as it did. In my interpretation, that's evidence that voters do not like the kind of messaging that the president has engaged in, where he's using anger and vitriol against his opponents and not having reasoned conversations. I definitely think that the majority of Americans are more interested in the solutions to problems than they are in the arguments over them.
So let's look at New York. We have 27 members of Congress here in New York. I'm wondering, our congressional delegation as a whole, and I'll get to the specifics in a moment, but do we see our representatives in Congress from New York typically working in a bipartisan way down in Washington, or do they typically vote along partisan lines?
Well, obviously it varies a great deal within the state and within districts within the state. But I would say as a representative group, there is a fair amount of working across the aisle taking place by New York legislators.
So let's look at the specific lawmakers in New York State right now, members of Congress. Who is most likely to work across the aisle and who is least likely to work across the aisle in terms of New York State?
Yeah, so in the category of most likely, and now you're going to put shame to my last comment. Anthony Brindisi was had the highest score, one of the highest scores in all of Congress, with a score of 100, and unfortunately he lost his election. But we see Peter King, who also scored very well, Tom Reed, who scored very well, and it's important to remember that this is not a comment about whether a representative is middle of the road or is does not have strong political biases one way or another. It's really a measure of even with those, are they willing to talk with those on the other side to try and find solutions and to reach out? And I think that's something that as more people are made aware of this, there'll be more support for representatives who engage in that kind of activity.
So we've seen President-elect Joe Biden possibly take some Republicans to come into his cabinet, or certainly in senior levels of his administration. Do you think that that is a sign towards maybe a new era of unity in the country, toward a political season, maybe in the next 2 years, 4 years, where we see more candidates that are looking more likely to work across the aisle?
I very much hope so. I would say it's encouraging. We'll wait to see how well the president-elect does at reaching out to those on the other side. We've had a lot of conversations with members of Congress, and I think that a significant issue here is that the leadership of Congress is not enthusiastic about letting people work with those on the other side, and I think the more people are aware of this, and the more people recognize the value of trying to find common ground, there'll be greater and greater support for this.
All right, well, we will be watching as the new Congress is sworn in January down in Washington, D.C. Eric Olson from the Common Ground Committee, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.